good to see you. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Hi. Hello, hello, hello. Take your seat or stand. You can dance. You can ride your roller skates. It's all good here. All forms of travel are welcome, and good morning to you all. Does James make this music? No, I simply push out the pressure cones. That was Particle House, I believe. If you rewind and hit play again, it'll show you in the very bottom left corner. Love those guys. I do have a playlist. I do make the intros, edit the video to go along with the music, and that's what's happening. What you don't know is that I am a conglomeration of tiny Keebler elves that have assembled inside the metadome that I call the epidermis. They formed a multinational corporation where even themselves have no idea, really, the total picture of things. And so inside these countries, we'll call them organs, they formulated their own states. They use propaganda to control their cellular cultures to create the most vigorous, high output society that the body of Osiris can bring. So I'm a giant puppet made from the collective angst and hallucination of trillions of tiny Keebler elves. And you're one of them. I bet you didn't see that coming, did you? You're one of them. But James, that makes you super large and me super small. Yeah, it does, but you've got all the power. I can't do shit. I need you to watch me, witness me. That's what moves my giant. Look, one of you just made my arm go up. Yeah, that was you. Nobody hit K on your keyboard. Oh, God, don't. Oh, I should not have said that. Oh, God, you guys have figured it out. No, I'm fucked. Welcome to the show, James True. I was going to go at 11:30 because a few of the demons have told me, James, you should limit your show. Stop being online. Make the stuff smaller because we live in a busy world is the argument I hear. And all that is actually good because it makes the cream come out. I listen to critique. I don't always think it's unretarded, but I listen to it because it's in my field. This is the Demons of Hypothetica. We've discussed this idea before. To me, it's not important that you like an idea. It's important that you notice the amount of torque an idea gives you. So if someone criticizes you and you don't remember it, that idea is not very important to you. If someone criticizes you and you laugh, you actually feel better because you realize you're nowhere near where that is. I'm talking about genuinely laugh, not laugh at them. Then that helps you. But more importantly, if someone criticizes you and it sticks in you for a while and you think about how unfair it is and how you're nowhere near that way and that there's no way this would properly reflect who you are, this is, there's some good nuggets in here. There's some good nuggets. Some of you might call that pyrite. And that's what you're going to tell yourself. A fool has to tell himself it's fool's gold so he can walk away. He walks away from the vein and says, there's nothing here. And he really returns it to Pandora's box. All of us do that. And you can also hunt too long. You can look in the same hole insisting that there's more gold here, right? So you have no idea. You can call yourself a 49er. You can be good at this, but you're never going to know. You're never going to know. It purely is a faith-based activity, and even then, there's no way of really predicting the sonar. In my opinion, you just need to enjoy yourself. There are gem mines where I live. Little things set up where families can come and bring their kids, and their kids dig around in the dirt, and inside the dirt, there's rubies. And I thought maybe there'd be like one. I thought, okay, well, probably like one guy can get away with this, because it's such an odd idea that only one person would. No, this is like a chain restaurant kind of business. And first of all, I'm not even knocking it. If you've done this, if you want to take your kids to do this, I think you should. I think you'll have fun. But me personally, when I look at that, I'm just like, oh, wow, that is interesting. You're fast fooding mystery. And it's not even mystery. There's actually a guarantee. If you read the fine print, the guarantee is that you will find at least 0.01% of the combination of the following gems. And then those gems are listed. So, and why? Because they don't want you to feel ripped off. And because they do not want you to feel ripped off, you are never ever going to find like a giant gold nugget worth like $60,000 in there either. That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. But you don't know that. If you want to broadcast in the world, you're going to be like, you know what? I bet this guy probably mortgaged his house to put one $60,000 piece of gold in here. And because that's the only way that he could do this. No, he's not doing that. He probably would tell you that. Or, to be really honest, he probably would allow that rumor to go unchallenged in his parking lot. This is probably the closest you're going to get to what really happens. He's probably going to not allow that to go unchallenged, or allow that to go unchallenged if that's floating around the field. He might even capture that in a little Yelp review and post it on the bathroom so guys can see it when they pee. And so guys that are like 500 miles away are looking at this Yelp review going, I wonder if he's got a $60,000 gold nugget under there. And the guy's like, man, he's struck gold. He is peeing and he struck gold. That's forever in his demon. It's like occupying his field. He walks out of the deli. His kids and his wife are still there. They don't know what just happened. And he goes, guys, we're going on an adventure. So they saddle up. They go to Gold City. Right on the Continental Divide, they park. They ride the monorail up to the top. Up to the top, they go simulated gold digging. And does he find the $60,000 piece of gold? Does he? Does he? You see why I have to stop? I can't tell you the rest of the story. It would ruin the entire magic of it all. This is a play-by-numbers world. If you want him to find gold, you're going to turn to page 138. If you want him to find wisdom, you're going to tell him to turn to page 46, right? There's all kinds of ways to go. There's all kinds of things to do. And each of us are here doing what we can, trying to do what we think that we should do versus over what we actually are just being possessed to do by others. Hypothetica is a fascinating place of latent space. James, what is Hypothetica? This is an old stream, but the Demons of Hypothetica is a stream I did a long time ago that explains this more, but it's definitely worth repeating. When I say a long time ago, I mean like 600 episodes ago, probably. So it's probably right to discuss. But if you consider that there's a realm, and that this realm is, we're going to call it Hypothetica, and that all of the hypotheticals that you and I could ever see, touch, taste, or feel are swimming in this liquid plasma called Hypothetica. And we can grab these eels, these fish, we can pet them. They become our familiars, like a magician with his familiars. So you have the Hypothetica of I'm going to live forever. And you have the Hypothetica of I'm the best chess player that ever ruled the world. And you have all of these different things. I have a Hypothetica now that says I'm amazing. How did that happen? I don't know, but the fish is here and I'm taking it. Thank you so much, Susanna Barker, for the fish. This is a Hypothetica too. I'm petting this fish. This fish has real implications. This fish has a pranic smart contract attached, which actually bequeaths a $20 super chat to me. This is a powerful, powerful demon inside of Hypothetica. I hope Susanna didn't hear that as me accusing her of demonology if she doesn't like demons. If she understands what demons are, daemons is a running algorithm, a program that we invoke to possess ourselves, to reach the finish line, to show more compassion than we maybe have in our capacitors, to push ourselves in a different way, then you're kind of right in line with what I'm talking about. But this word's scary. It's scary because we lose a lot of volition in Hypothetica. And more importantly, we lose a lot of self because we're catering to the hypothetical demon in the room all the time. Majoritarianism is a word we discuss here. I don't know of too many other people that discuss it. And you know what's funny is the only people that don't talk about majoritarianism are majoritarians. This is not really a classification meant to denigrate, although I could easily see how it would. I would prefer to you to look at majoritarian as a taxonomy of consciousness. It's just simply a node where the collection of cells would do best inside this sort of category. And so the category of majoritarianism requires the taking of sides. It's a not a decoupled skin cell. It's a coupled skin cell. It's a skin cell that has decided I will save more calories if I unite with others around me, and the majoritarian forms. That majoritarian is also a hypothetica. All of the cells believe that they are safer inside of this it's if you're surrounding yourself by others, if you are creating a hypothetical of having sides, you may come up with a six-sided shape that maybe looks like a bee. And so now you're living inside a hive. And after a while, the hive, it would become difficult to even see what's outside because the hive itself would become its own realm, its own universe. And this is exactly how powerful the honey of Hypothetica is. It's a beautiful balm. We need this. Our immune system's built on this. The ego is a beehive. Your sense of betrayal is a beehive. Your sense of what you owe to society is a beehive. But more importantly, the hypotheticals that are thrown at you when you're not looking are also a part of this field. And I don't want you to think that this is weakness, being susceptible to Hypothetica. I want you to instead look at it as that you're living inside of a giant chemistry. And the fact is that because you're symbiotic, because you're connected to this world, because you're in chemistry with it, with the world, you're going to be mixologized by the chemicals that are around you. It's just going to happen. Let it go, baby. Just let it go. Easy way to let go is realize there's really no such thing as color. What we have is we draw ourselves into the concept of color in order to keep a state. We're trying to remember that we're yellow because archetypally, our mind, our brain is able to secure memories inside of limbic thought forms. This is also Hypothetica. So if the day is bright, all of your memories are stored in the file folder called Bright Day. Those things can be influenced by the folder itself, just the color of the folder itself. Most of us are waking up with the demons that are haunting our body from the night before. And in the morning, we've either cast those out electrically or we've found that we love them too much and we want them to stay another day or two. And this could feel good. It could feel bad. I think the best way to feel is to feel haunted. I want you to embrace, or if you want to do this, I think it's best to embrace the idea that you're hauntable, that you're haunted. Because once you can accept this, you can start to recognize, because you're already doing it, but you can start to recognize the ghost that you put into the machine, right? And once you see the ghost that you can put into the machine, man, you are set. Because, no pun intended, set. But you're set because you actually are a programmer now. You become the architect, Neo. Neo, you're the architect. James, stop relating to things in the vernacular. I haven't been out of coffee for a while. This is really good. It is. So we come up with concepts like shiver me timbers. We have these concepts in our mind. We have these thought forms that we tell ourselves, and these thought forms really just allow us to see the shapes of all the demons that are around us. You have a demon called pride. You have a demon called reputation. You have a demon called what's expected of you. All these things are there, and you can try and clean it. You can pretend to be an atheist. You can have that whole fetish where you take off all your clothes and you walk around in public and you insist that no one can see you. And people are going to pretend they can't see you because they don't want to look at that. That's all. And that's atheism. It's fine. Go for it. Seriously. But if you start to realize that there's no such thing as knowing, then you start to realize that if knowing is the enemy of belief, then belief is the enemy of knowing. You start to realize there's kind of some holes in this thing. Why don't you just believe everything? Why don't you just understand that everything's running on belief? The second you do that, no one's a liar. You know why? Because they're just showing good faith. You don't get to walk up to every church that disagrees with you and call them all liars. You don't get to do that. You can try it, but you're going to lose. Well, Jason, it's all about victory. You're right, man. If you want sanctity, die on this porch. But you know what? You're just going to make that place holier because they're going to see that you are bothered by them. And this is what I meant by when you wake up with these fish, even if you hate them, this just means that you're more attached than you want to admit. You need these demons. You need these things. Right now, we're haunted by an anonymous fish. Yeah, there's a fish of anonymous. This interesting idea that I'm watching in Patreon where we're struggling with the concept of how does this work. And I like to think of it as a hole in a tree. Trees are beautiful, so are holes. And in this tree, there's this beautiful hole, and anyone can climb inside the tree and start to speak. And the moment that they can speak, they become brave because they think no one will be able to figure out it was them that said such a thing. And when you give that kind of power, you turn someone into the invisible man. And if you can thought form what it's like to be the invisible man, you'll find that the first thing you lose is morality. All morality slips out the window. Is it because you're a bad person? I don't think so. Although you could be a bad person and still have this vision. But the reason why you lose morality is because you lose witness. If no one can actually witness you, you are really doomed into schizophrenia. You're not actually meant to be unwitnessable. You're meant to be able to hide in a witness space. You're meant to be able to control the throttle of your witness, right? So you can constantly be applying the pressure of putting a blanket between you and someone else. But this is the same as applying the brake or applying the gas. The car doesn't work in a way where if you just turn the key and you don't use any feet, you go. We wouldn't want that. We want something to prove our accountability that we actually want to move, that we actually want to slip through the field, if this makes sense. So we have this with hiding. Hiding is that kind of throttle that you have to apply. And because you have to apply it, it requires calories that you don't have. So if you have no pride, there's no reason to hide. If you have no reputation, there's no reason to hide. If you don't really care if you're right or wrong, but you just want to talk, you really have all the reasons to hide. There's a lot of advantages to being in the hole. You get to speculate on things that no one's going to come back and say, hey, you were wrong about. You get to throw out accusations literally at anyone you want, purely based on the mood that you feel at the time. You get to disparage people that are new. You get to disparage people that are old. You get to disparage anyone because you're just a hole speaking into the night. This is a very safe place to be. You could argue that this is how the soul or the individual finds himself, but I actually don't know of anyone that's actually been able to pull that off, because I think the more you stay invisible, the more wretched you become, because you're actually atrophying of witness itself. You're dying of witness. So if we were to support the voice in the hole, which we do, we call this AP and Reuters, what we're really doing is allowing ourselves to be hypnotized by the lowest form of an equation, because it's someone that has no desire to be correct, accurate, accountable, or have any sense of, hey, I did a good job by reporting today. You can just say whatever you want. You can literally say whatever you want. Right now, a acoustic seismic scan was done on the pyramids, and it's showing some very vague shapes that you could argue look like vertical green blobs. Like, that's about the best you could argue they look like. You could argue maybe a giant blue cucumber, but it's not even blue. It's just simply the coloring that the graph uses to speculate. But now we have millions of accounts, including Alex Jones, including Joe Rogan, including Danny, what's his name, including all the other people that have been spending months supporting them are now saying these are staircases. You've got Ken Wheeler. We're calling it a theory, actually, which is funny, but this is the physioelectrical effect. And this whole thing now proves that the entire thing was a battery and that the top part of it glowed because of this thing. And no one really has to apply any kind of logic to this thing, because these are just holes in trees. And as long as they're holes in trees, people who really don't care whether things are accurate will gather around the spout and simply just collect from the warmth. This really is, I think, at the heart of what makes majoritarianism so beautiful, is that when you're living in the majority, you really are living in the anonymous. You have the ability to apply an anonymous pace because you get to listen to the herd as if it was an individual. Not only that, but you get to defend the voice in the hole as if it was a person. And so if anyone else says to the hole in the wall, hey, guy, voice in hole, in tree, the physioelectrical effect is actually the compression of something and then its release, the compression of something and then its release, the compression of something and then its release. That is actually the motor, the effect. The effect is not big hole in ground, therefore water has weight pushed down. That doesn't actually make electricity. That just makes weight. If this was true, the entire earth would just simply glow because of how heavy it is on itself. But see, I'm yelling at a hole. I'm yelling at a hole that some people will say is Ken Wheeler today because that's a popular hole to attribute things to. And so we do these things to feel really good because we're finding just how magical, just how mystical anonymous declarations can be. This helps us with everything. This allows us to facilitate pharmacos. We get to say that the Jews killed JFK. We get to excuse every veteran that's ever fought in any war and simply say, hey, the Jews made you do it. Am I right? And they do. They made us do it, man. If we would have known, we wouldn't have done it. And so we end up with the world that we have today. And when we have a world like today, we also end up with Bill Gates, because you're going to need a Bill Gates when you have a world like this. So we have Bill Gates saying things. And even Bill Gates throws in, and I'm going to play you what he said because I think it's important. Let's see here. We'll go here. Hope you're doing well. Happy. So there's a lot there, and we can go all over the place with it. I don't know if you realize what kind of it's kind of a sign of deep psychopathy when we look at the earth and all of her food as a problem that needs to be solved. When we approach the world that way, it's a procedure. We're operating on a procedure in the world from a hypothetical that this world needs solving, that there's something broken in the world, that world hunger, honestly, is a sign that the world is broken. And that anyone who dies of malaria is a sign that the world is broken. And so now we've declared death itself to be a hypothetical enemy. And it's very hard to defend death. It's almost impossible, especially to a majoritarian, because the majoritarian hasn't actually reached the place of Athena quite yet. They haven't actually reached that shore. And I think this is truly at the heart of what we are haunted by today, is this concept, because Bill Gates is not actually giving you any new technology when it comes to wisdom or discernment. And actually what he's saying is accurate. I want you to picture before the dynamo, before the copper coil was energized, that we invented what we call, or do call now, not at the time, the Industrial Revolution. The idea that we could place a coil that spins in everyone's pocket. The moment we placed that coil in everyone's pocket, the world changed. We developed cars, motors, washing machines. All of the dynamos that you see in effect today were direct results of normalizing the copper coil. Something that used to be a very specific thing that only a few masterminds or wizards might possess. For example, Nikola Tesla, for example, or even Bell at the time. To be able to build something as efficient as that was purely for a certain magician. And that was obliterated in the Industrial Revolution because each of us were able to take the dynamo and place it in our pocket. It really was a free energy device if you look at what we had beforehand. So that's the definition of the Industrial Revolution, really is the normalization of magic that's based on the movement of copper in a magnet and a coil. That's really all it took. So we're in an intelligence revolution right now, not a wisdom one, but an intelligence one. We are at the dawn of an intelligence revolution, and Bill Gates is right to say this. He really is. We're taking the motor, the coil of silicon, the ability to memorize light is really all this is. And that by memorizing light really, really fast, we've created a motor that each of us can now place in our pocket. If you're to open a phone, you'll find that there's very little actually copper coil spinning in there. There's maybe one. It's the vibrator that makes your phone vibrate. It's probably about the only motor you're going to even find in there. This is a silicon revolution. It's an intelligence revolution. And so now intelligence is becoming ubiquitous. Intelligence is inside of everyone's pocket, and we're seeing that results. But if you listen to what Bill Gates just said, that intelligence is not actually getting us necessarily more conscious. That you would think if anyone would have wisdom by now, it would be Bill Gates. It would be someone that has spent a lot of time with silicone in his pocket, asking it questions, and you would think that he would naturally reach that space, but you don't see that there. Does it mean that Bill Gates is not wise? The group would love to say, of course, he's an idiot. He's the worst thing that's ever been there. There's only one way that Bill Gates could function, and it's as an evil Epsteinian overlord, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not even going to try and say that. If you think it's hard to defend death, try fucking trying to defend Bill Gates. Neither one are going to work. You're just going to have to just let the room do what the room wants to do, if you know what I mean. And quite frankly, Bill Gates can take it. I see it more as a Heyoka kind of a clown. I don't need him to be conscious of that. But Athena marked the same thing. If you go see the Athena in the Parthenon, or if you look her up, you're going to find that Athena is holding the statue of Nike, i.e. Victory, in her right hand. And Victory is fawning over Athena. She's desperately trying to plant a crown of laurels on her head. But Athena is paying Nike no mind. Athena possesses Victory, but she gives it no gaze. She has no witness for what Nike or Victory even means. Her eyes remain ahead. This really is the wisdom of where we're going. And there's not going to be a revolution that's going to put wisdom in your pocket. I would argue that what Bill Gates is truly doing is telling you that you still live in the jungle. He's explaining to you that resting on the laurels of intelligence is not going to cut it anymore if you want to survive in this new place. To me, he's telling you that you need to survive. And the only way you're going to survive right now, my friends, is to discern things. Discern things is really the ultimate thing that separates intelligence from wisdom. This really is at the heart of what separates these two objects. Intelligence is every fact that you've ever heard. Wisdom is understanding the difference. We understand the difference between these facts, that these facts aren't even necessarily real. Most of them are hypothetical. Most of those hypotheticals are building a scaffolding environment that's sort of a menagerie that just tries to keep our feet off the actual ground, the actual soil, where the food grows, where the food comes out of quite naturally. So we don't really have a problem with food. We have a problem with discernment. And I've tried as best I can to keep Ken Wheeler out of this. I really have. Because it's not fair. It's not fair to him. He's a hypothetical that all of us, we want hypotheticals. We want these things here. But when you keep watching the hypotheticals having to tear apart other hypotheticals in order to prove how hypothetical they are, it makes it harder for me to feel comfortable about this place, which is why I wish the system, the majoritarians, were only gaslighting me about 1% to 5% about how retarded they were. If they were only willing to say, look, we're only 1% to 5% retarded, I would be able to go along with them and regulate more. But I think what's really happening when you're watching all the pyramid scans, is that it's showing you the litmus of discernment. It's showing you what it looks like to see the difference in something, how much it takes to see the difference in something. And quite frankly, how many people do not see that? How many millions of viewers, how many millions of likes are there begging for someone to tell them that these are spiral staircases that go down to the base of the pyramid because it's a secret power device? These things are all over the Hypothetica because it would mean that there is something larger than us here right now. And if we had that, we probably could start phoning it in a little bit more. Ultimately, this is what I think we're after, is the ability to phone it in, the ability to create a revolution of intelligence, or nay, a revolution of wisdom, so all of us could keep the wisdom in our pocket. So if we can simply follow the majoritarian, if we follow what is the most popular idea, I think we're convinced that that will lead us to wisdom. And this is really, I think, at the heart of why it becomes so blind for you to remain a majoritarian. And more importantly, why it's such a lonely, lonely road to crawl yourself out of there and into this cold, lonely isolation booth called wisdom. No one's going to be able to be there with you for that. No one's going to be able to hold your hand. I have tried to say, hey guys, why don't we apply a little bit of wisdom to what Bill Gates just said, or to what Trump just said, or to what Musk just said, or to what Ken Wheeler just said. It's frankly, it's all of the figures out there. And every time you do that, you are going to find your way simply by looking at the isolation that you get as a result. There's something amazing about this place. This place has enough isolation for all of us. In fact, there's so much isolation that it's constantly trying to reach its roots and tap into new ground and to find liquid to drink. And you are that liquid. It finds that isolation inside of you. These are constellations that are in your mind that I think are even more real than the Majoritarian. They're even more real than the hypothetical. I can say they're more real because if you just wait 5 minutes, that theory is going to change, and it's not going to be a power device again. It's going to be an ancient ark. It's going to be the Ark of the Covenant itself. It's going to be a giant chamber, a time capsule, and then that's going to become popular again. But because it waited long enough, like all the fad diets, this is going to be the new thing, and millions of seagulls are going to insist this is the hot dog that's going to save us. This is the hot dog that's going to save us. I don't think that I have the right position here. I think if I remember the recess analogy, I need to look at this as opportunities to have fun and play. So even the hypotheticals are demonizing me because I don't have enough flow state from that spot. That's how I woke up this morning, feeling that way. And so if I wasn't able to give myself more self-awareness, I might come out a little bit more hot. I might come out a little bit more subjective and judgmental. And that even those would be my personality because all of us are haunted by Hypothetica. There's really nothing to be done. There's really nothing to fix. I really think this is just a toy, just like anything else is. So when I look at Bill Gates, I have to see him in the same light as I look at, say, Ken Wheeler. In other words, one person who maybe you think is more on your side because they're on the side of truth, or so you're under the impression. Then there's like someone who's clearly a baddie who wants everyone to inject evil into their veins and stuff like that. I want you to say I want you to see, because I don't need you to see this, that these are the same demons. These are the same spirits. These are the same etheric algorithms that run on what if. And this really does empower the hole in the tree. Getting back to the hole in the tree, I think ultimately the only thing that would change us listening to holes in the tree is just growing more self-respect. This is tricky because no one out there is really doing anything to encourage you to grow self-respect. Most of the system is wanting to capitalize on us finding someone to blame for our last display of self-disrespect. So we utilize the self-disrespect that we have by maybe following the wrong charlatan and then turn that energy into blaming another charlatan so we can go back to just doing what we're doing, which is just dancing with the hypotheticals. So this dance is important. I think ultimately it does get us there. Over time, there's shakeout and people will find themselves lonely, thank goodness. And as they find themselves in the lonely, they'll start to build their own voice, and these voices will start to create their own Hypothetica, and then really it just breeds this self-growth that leads to wisdom. So all these things are good. All these things are getting us there. It's really more of a flaw of myself to be angry or upset at the alchemical process. It's supposed to burn. It's kind of supposed to feel that way, you know? It's supposed to. So maybe the pyramids are the coccyx. Maybe they're the most sacred bones inside your body. And that because all of us have these sacred bones inside of our body, all of us would need to know about where they are in the world. So all of us call them the Great Pyramids. And just like you can broadcast feelings into the color orange, you can broadcast feelings into the archetype, the icon of pyramids. And so everything that we stack up there can be true and hypothetical at the same time, because really the only language of hypothetical that you're ever going to have is mythology. I think the only codex you're ever going to find to interpret divine language is going to be mythology. So this playground is mythology incarnate. It doesn't make me mad that we're playing with mythology, I realize. It makes me mad that so many kids on the playground are insisting that mythology has to be correct, that there has to be a certain specific mythology. More importantly, that the mythology that is correct is the one that has the most eyes on it. And you know what? I think that's really at the heart of what burns me the most. Because it's true. We build and shape our world based on mythology. I know this to be the light language underneath it all. And I think what bothers me is that the people that have the power aren't the ones that are wise, they're the ones that believe the most. They have the most torque. This makes me feel very powerless. It makes me feel powerless because I do not have enough of an imagination, quite frankly, to come out with ideas that I think would be the greatest thing that we could play at recess. So I feel jealous. I feel inadequate because my own demons do not have the mustering capability to bring enough boys to the yard so that we can all start believing them. I tend to base my mythology more on what would be the most, what I call accurate. My zetetic knowledge of what everyone's seeing seems to be my biggest hindrance or my biggest demon that stops me from playing in this very playground. Can you see what I just did to myself? Is this self-annihilating? Or is this what a seed would do who's trying to germinate into a universe that, quite frankly, runs on belief, not wisdom? This is a big place to be. I don't like it. It would be more profitable if I did. I'm more talking energetically profitable. Although, yeah, it'd be more profitable if I did. I would do better. And if I did do better, that would make me more generous to the world. And if I was more generous, I would be able to output more water, more liquid. So even mythology is physioelectric. This is deep stuff, guys. And if you're here for answers, I don't know why you still think that's going to happen. I don't know why. I really want you to have a better posture than me. I don't want you to look at my posture and say, that's the posture I need. I want you to look at my posture and go, hey, I could do that, but better. I think this is really what's gonna get there, what it's gonna do. So, whenever mythologies works, I say those are correct. Yeah, that's what Kane's saying. I think you're right. I think you're right. I want to lean into this more, especially with Project Bluebeam. I really want to lean into this idea more. I want to materialize UFOs above my house. I want to materialize them, but I think the only way I can do this safely is to do them to myself. This is a biggie. Do I tell the world that I'm fasting, or do I just fast myself? There's such a big difference between these two things. Like, seriously. One is a demon where you externalize the prana of being seen as someone who's fasting. The other is an internal demon where you battle your own swiftest enemy, and you have no one else to help you in this place. So one is going into Dagobah, one is leaving Dagobah. Both of these are realities. Do you want to go join the rebel forces? I mean, look at Leia. She's got cinnamon bun hair, right? You got Chewie, you got Han. These are cool folks. Who wouldn't want to hang out with those demons? Who wouldn't want to have those hypotheticals in your mind, occupying it, reminding you that you're on the good side because there's a big shaggy dog who goes, "Rawr," so you must be good. You have to be good, right? Those guys have O1s on them. Everyone's wearing the same clothing. Everything's all neat and tidy, right? This is the other side of things. So, is the Empire right? No. But is the Rebels right? No, they're not either, actually. This is fascinating look at the bicameral brain. This bicameral brain is actually brought to you by James True Life. No, I was kidding. This is part of what I want to talk about today. I think we can get to that now. Tezcatlipoca. This is a dude in Aztec culture. We've talked about him before, but we're going to talk about him more in depth now. Tezcatlipoca is the god of death, the god of darkness, the god of Jaguaria. Jaguar is the first sun in Aztec culture, and the first sun is dim. The first sun doesn't move. The first sun is ambient light. It is just enough light to be cast over the plane so you can start imaginating. And this is really the birth of your consciousness, the birth of your visage itself, your ability to see things in latent space. You begin in darkness, then you start to fill in details. Some of you draw this way. You'll start to draw with some really light pencil marks. Those pencil marks will form over time. It doesn't matter if they're right or if they're wrong. You're looking for a majoritarian of pencil marks that builds you a fantasy that most accurately represents the figure that you're drawing. So majoritarianism is even used as we draw things. This is why you shouldn't listen to me when I'm telling you, beware of majoritarians. You are the majoritarian. You are an agency itself, a giant mob living inside you saying, we're going to be mad about this today, or we're going to be really happy about that today. And I think ultimately, Tezcatlipoca is your consciousness coming online. This is the first sun. The very first time you would be able to see in the world would be the very first birth of consciousness. So you see the stars in the sky. You see the guys. Let me just. My dad is. I will call. I love my dad. I just need to tell him this. I love that guy. Thanks for waiting. So this latent space that we have, this idea of darkness all around us, is the jaguar. It's the first Tezcatlipoca who comes online. We slowly start to see things that are there, but they're only there because we saw them. We see them into existence. So we imagine the stars. We imagine the sky. We give plants their texture, their root, their shape. And all those things really are based on what we see in the darkness, our latency for things, which means that the first light was not a bright light at all. If the first light was bright, I don't think we'd see anything. The first light would have to be such a subtle light that it becomes so hard to see that you're never really sure if it's there, because that would be the only kind of consciousness that you could have that would facilitate such a view. So we facilitate these views. The jaguar is the hunter. The jaguar is associated with every day in the calendar. Why is that? Why is Tezcatlipoca associated with every day? It's only the first sun. In fact, it died, we think, because the second sun came. We'll get to that. But Tezcatlipoca is everywhere because the night conquers every day. Not only does the night conquer every day, but when you go deep into the jungle, whether it be concrete or vegetative, you're going to see the shadows of Tezcatlipoca. That despite how bright the sun is, there are opportunities for Tezcatlipoca to exist because the latency is there. You need to be able to see the latency to create the world. The world is created on vagueness, my friends. This really is at the heart of mathematical mythology. We create mythology by looking at the vagueness. This is the only way up. This is why it's the first sun in Aztec culture. This truly is the only way this would work. When man first rose, his consciousness first rose, one person in the village would be chosen as this figure, Tezcatlipoca. It's true. At the beginning of, right after Coyolxauhqui is murdered at Templo Mayor, right after her body, the Liberty Bell, bells on cheeks, right after she's ripped apart and her body is tossed off the steps, Tezcatlipoca is chosen. He's chosen. He's chosen from among the village. Typically, it could be a slave captured in the Flower War, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's actually a very highly honored position. They choose this person. They declare him Tezcatlipoca. And instead of them beating him up, they praise him. They give him everything he wants. For the entire year, this is the king of the village. He literally can walk into the big chief's house whenever he wants. He can sleep with his wife. He can take any food that he sees anywhere. He is allowed to move around as if any shadow figure, as if he is the invisible man himself. He gets to embody this darker consciousness. He's taught how to play the flute. He's taught how to say and act in certain ways. And the entire time people are worshiping him. They're finding Tezcatlipoca and they're saying, hey, you only have, actually, I think then it was 280 days to live. Let's say 365 days, so you can think about it in a year. Hey, you only have 365 days. Would you please honor our house by coming to sleep in our bed. And so even Tezcatlipoca coming into someone's house and sleeping would bring the house great honor. This honor probably more comes into the idea of Tezcatlipoca sees you. By seeing something, it becomes more real. So this God who penetrates all days knows you're there. He knows you're there because he's in your house. He knows you're there because he eats your food. You become a victim of Tezcatlipoca, which means you're real. Isn't this the birth of pain? Aren't all sensory signals that we feel in our body really the birth of something? That when someone is suffering from paralysis and they're have an injury, and once the swelling goes down, they begin to feel a tingling and a sensation in certain places. And this sensation is very difficult to feel. It could be even too loud even. Usually when someone learns to hear for the first time, if you're ignoring the commercials, which are definitely staged, it's a very painful experience at first. It's all noise. The noise hasn't been associated yet. And just like the darkness, we start to associate and grow consciousness in these things. And so Tezcatlipoca, it really is the birth of the ego in the village, that everyone watches this person come around touching each of them. So they beg Tezcatlipoca, hey, when you die, can you please say my daughter's name? I want her to be healed. And all Tezcatlipoca has to do is say, yes, I will say your daughter's name. He doesn't even have to say it. Doesn't even have to say it. Maybe he doesn't even say it. Maybe Tezcatlipoca spends some time mad and goes around admonishing certain families for a while. I don't really know how this played out. It's very difficult to imagine exactly how the architecture of this thing came. All we really have is the codexes that describe these things. But James, the codexes could have been faked. Yeah, I think a lot of them could have been faked. You'll find, though, that some of them were hard to fake because they were recorded with pride. It was a prideful event. It was we want to remember and understand your gods most accurately. And there was a competition almost where people were fighting over the true meaning of Tezcatlipoca. In fact, as the first son, this is one of those arguments, that how can the first son die but still be everywhere? And this is kind of like an ink blot. If you really want to understand this figure in your life, because this figure is in your life, I want you to think about it like a smoking mirror. I want you to see that the smoke is on purpose. You want the smoke. You want the obsidian. You do not want a clear reflection. As soon as you have a clear reflection, all of your ability to fantasize who you are disappears. You and I are cursed by mirrors. Imagine if we could only see ourselves through a polished piece of brass. Imagine what our visage would look like in our own minds if we could never see ourselves. This is that invisible man. And we would lack some morality because we could not see ourselves clearly. And that lack of morality would be animism. It would give us all the fantasy we need to reach higher levels of belief and to create a culture that otherwise would probably be impossible without it. So this is a very stringent magic that works both ways. It flows in both directions. So you have this smoking mirror now. The vagueness that you remember what someone said 3 weeks ago is helping you. The obscurity that you wonder at the latest voice that you hear in a hole, you're able to broadcast all of your feelings, all of your costumes onto that Tezcatlipoca and create your wishes or your curses for the future. So you will pray to the jaguar as much as you would curse to the jaguar because both of them are giving you effectiveness. You're tapping into a placebo that you do not want to admit is you or is there yet. This is really what's happening. This is why the night conquers every day and lives inside the day as shadows. The spots of the jaguar are the shadows from the leaves of trees that are being lit by the sunlight. The jaguar is there, but it's hidden just enough to where you're not afraid, but the truth is always in the room, or at least we hope it is. So you want the obsidian. You want the smoking mirror. This is a sacred tool of vision. It would be a sacred tool of vision before you had a bicameral connection across your corpus callosum. But without that connection, you would need to build a smoking mirror to reach its there. And isn't this what a neuron does when it's trying to find its connection? It simply knows it's there. It simply exerts all of its calories back and forth, shooting these little shoots out into nothingness, hoping to find another hand that's waiting to catch it. And when it does, you have life. When it does, you create something, and you still don't know what it is. You still can't see it, but you're going to call it you, and it's going to call you it, and the two of you are going to merge, and you're going to become one. And this is the smoking mirror. This is how you grow. You reach into your environment by noticing such things. So sorcery and surveillance are all just aspects of sentience. These are just avenues we use to get there. This is why I think it's so profound that Tezcatlipoca is so associated with Sir John Dee. It's kind of an arbitrary side story, really. But still, it's so strongly built into the mythology because it's on purpose. Sir John Dee was given or bought or stole or found, you can insert your word here, one of the most famous obsidian mirrors of Montezuma. And this obsidian mirror was used to cast and to call forth the spirit, the image of Tezcatlipoca, which means that the moment that John Dee received this mirror, he was possessed by the smoky Tezcatlipoca jaguar that we've been discussing. It reached the shores of England, was seen for the first time. Not only that, John Dee lacked his own placebo. He lacked his own ability to believe in himself. If you read the life and times of John Dee, you're actually surprised at what a weakling he was. That the Enochian magic, which is just full of a lot of bureaucracy, honestly, Kelly was feeding him 80-character language, but backwards. And the chapters were being, it's not 80, excuse me, but it's a lot of characters. And that the entire story was fed backwards too. And the entire reason why it would be fed backwards is because Kelly could not deliver something specific, because that's what John Dee wanted. But he would die if he didn't have this latency. It was a deep, somewhat homoerotic relationship between these two guys. And I think that you would probably best understand this, just as Tezcatlipoca was the mind, the first early consciousness coming online, John Dee and Edward Kelly are two lobes, the left brain and the right brain, trying to make sense of it all. It's so fascinating how tied in John Dee and Edward Kelly were. The two were inseparable over their lives, even though they had a love-hate relationship. We've joked here on the show about how Edward Kelly convinced John Dee that he was going to have to diddle his wife so that they could see things, and this really is a true story. But it really doesn't adequately hit just how far Edward Kelly was willing to push John Dee in any way, shape, or form, probably for no other reason than simply to stay alive. Edward Kelly was quite a successful con man or charlatan. John Dee wasn't the only one that fell for him. There was a time when Edward Kelly was actually more popular than Sir John Dee, if you can believe that, and Sir John Dee actually had the ear of the Queen. So really, Edward Kelly was utilizing his ability to install torque, his ability to say, I have a theory about the pyramid and it's physioelectric. And that if you just say that one word and nothing else, Edward Kelly knew the power of leading the mythology. He understood the true mystical nature of what it's like to lie from the place of placebo. Placebo and lies are the same thing. So is it really right for me to complain about lies? I don't think so. This is the same place where we heal, because this is the same place where we create consciousness. The demons that you hate are going to be just as effective, if not more, than the demons that you love. Isn't this just a symbol of the brain? On one side, you have Edward Kelly insisting that the emotional torque of sex under the auspice of irreverence is the only way that Edward Kelly could jerk off enough of the left brain to pull forth the consciousness to generate a new sun. Meanwhile, you have the right brain, the intellect side, although John Dee is rough to call him an intelligent, but we will for the time, because really he was way ahead of his time. But you have the other brain that's trying to invent science that hasn't quite gotten there. But the other side of the brain has just as much weakness, so it utilizes the intuition, the voice through the mirror. Both of these are looking in the mirror at each other, but both of them are really just the mythology of you, of your brain. Your brain would need this mythology to explain the story of how it came online. That it utilizes the power of mysticism just as much as it utilizes the power of what it thinks is intellect or what it thinks is sensory zetics. We'll just call it zetics anyway. And that if you harness two of these things between a sacred mirror that has enough blurriness to it, you're going to create a rational human being that we call man, the Zeus itself. So truly, this is at the heart of what it takes to become conscious. That you can only become conscious through the mysticism of the animizing between the bicameral lobes that don't even know the other side is there. This really is at the heart of, I think, of what's happening. So the smoking mirror not only is a deity of the night, but it really is the only source of lightness to ever come. It gives us the opportunity to say, well, I can allow more light here. I can allow more light here. So we start to build stories about dogmen instead of looking at the fact that the word outlaw or canis lupus subius or whatever I said the other day is actually codified into our language for how we treated foreigners itself. But that's not enough excitement because there's not enough calories in our brains to keep such a memory, so we would need to mythologize it. We would need to give it some oomph, dress it in a Jason mask, and only then can we remember ourselves enough until the next ceremony comes, because consciousness needs to beat just like a heart does. This is the conscious heart beating. The early form is going to be based on terror and fear. Why? Because that's the only thing that has enough juice to make those constellations stay lit. Every time you have a thought, you're lighting up the phosphors in your brain. Those phosphors remain glowing for a time until they fade. Well, if they fade too long, the phosphors are forgotten because the neuron becomes lost. So we need a cycle to constantly bring that up, which is why the limbic tenor of terror itself becomes its own archetypal language. So every time you're watching the masses be afraid because of what Bill Gates said, or being inspired because someone found a purple cucumber-shaped depth difference underneath the pyramid, you're going to need mythology for a young mind to be able to lift this limp tentacle up and raise it in the air and say, I have a thought, I have a theory. So really, ultimately, I think what was bumming me out is simply the level where consciousness is. I'm complaining about the garden because I feel too tall and I want the rest of the watermelons to catch up with me. This isn't accurate either. This is as far away from play as I can get, and I admonish myself on air for saying such things. Tezcatlipoca is absolutely necessary, and I need to worship him, not banish him from my kingdom. I need to tap into the night subconscious even more, to the dream realms. What are UFOs right now? We're looking for the latest Tezcatlipoca, but we need something more modern so we can bring it into the future. So it makes perfect sense that we would need these UAPs. That sorcery itself, the trickery and illusion, is spiritual manipulation, but the spiritual manipulation is how we stand taller. We need to manipulate ourselves. We learn to walk by doing the same thing. We learn to run by doing the same thing. We invented the copper dynamo for the same reasons. So all these things come from the most latent, deepest, darkest spaces. At the very root of it all, the person who invented everything is Tezcatlipoca. He grants power and revokes power purely based on our acceptance of him in the room. He starts wars and ends wars purely based on our ability to honor his presence. This is the creator God. And he's one of four. That we've talked about the divine twins before on the show, and that one of the divine twins is the goddess Natia. I think that's how it's pronounced. This is a male-female goddess. She's kind of grotesque because she's sort of like the cornucopia of Earth itself. So all the caves in the world, all the crevices around Tulum, there's just hundreds and thousands of underwater caves now, and it's hard to imagine what they were like back then. But this would be the orifice of this beast. And out of her were raised four sons, and the first of those was Tezcatlipoca, the very first son. And this first son is absolutely necessary because it would be one of the turtle's arms, one of the turtle's legs, maybe even the turtle's head itself. So it's a very, very important part of understanding Turtle Island, I think. Ultimately, you are here. Ultimately, this is you looking at yourself, and the only way you can see yourself is wearing a mask. And the mask has to be terrifying because if you saw who was really underneath, your eyes would melt. Your skin would fall off. Your bones would turn to dust. Why would this happen? Because the truth would destroy every illusion that you've ever made, and illusions are what your skin is made of. The outer layer of your skin is just a bunch of dead cells that died so you could be here. But yet we touch each other to feel how living we are, which means that when we touch each other's skin, we're feeling how we're willing to die and die and die and call that life itself. So there's really no way to touch ourselves, not the living parts. And so too, there's no way to really see ourselves, not the living parts. We only see the parts of us that die in the light of Tezcatlipoca. This is interesting because Quetzalcoatl had a almost diametrically opposite kind of mythology. This is the white light. This is the clear crispness. This is the internal light that exists before the dawn versus Tezcatlipoca, which is the outer world itself. So you can see, and this is another child, by the way, of the same onomatopoeia. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong. Omoteotl, I think. I'm almost positive that's what it is. This mother of Tezcatlipoca has another child called Quetzalcoatl. And so the two of these work in tandem. One is bringing the darkness, the other is bringing the light. You could not have a more yin-yang kind of relationship than these two. And really, isn't this just Satan and Lucifer? Isn't this just Jesus and Yahweh? You're looking at the same sort of terror algorithm built with the same kind of salvation pole, and that the two of those are just a dynamo of spirituality. That it's a copper coil running itself, and it's running itself not on truth but on lies. And the lies that have the most vortex are going to be the lies that get you the farthest, which is why everything that we're hearing in the truth community would have to be a lie, because this is a conscious growth. It's a conscious approach to something. What if I was to tell you that you're just looking at the metaverse itself? What if the mythology of the mirror, of the obsidian mirror, is just a mouse cursor that you move across the screen, that you touch things with this mystery, like a mouse, and that your sense of wonderment about something gives it shape? It builds it in a way that you want it to be. This is why we have different theories over the pyramid. Because all of us are placing our latent cursor on that shape and painting what we think it could be. And isn't this really more at the heart of what the coccyx of God would look like? That the sacrum of God, the coccyx of God, would be three fused pyramids barely pumping out of the ground, and that every one of us know where they are, and every one of us have a different theory about what they mean. This is the true shape of our bones. This is the true understanding, I think, of who we actually are. So these things are too important to be unsettling. They're too important to be unsettled by their lack of integrity. Why are we bitching at a latent space lacking integrity? The very heart of latency requires the lack of integrity. I'm saying this to myself. I don't need you to hear this. I'm telling myself this, James. Latency requires a lack of integrity. Stop looking at the mystics in the room and insisting they have integrity. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get there that way. These are hard lessons, guys. My name literally is James True. Do you know how hard this is? I'm showing you my deepest butt crack. So the Aztec deity gazed through the mirror to command fate. John Dee stared into the understandable divine will to declare the same. He was declared by the queen. Dude, you're going to tell us what's going to happen in the future. You know what their first request is? Hey, do you know where to find a bunch of gold? John Dee's like, yeah, I can help you find gold. I can be vague though, right? And at first they were like, yeah, you can be vague. We really want to believe that you can find gold. So John Dee was vague. I see gold. Oh my God, there's so much. Tell us more. Oh my God, it's in a box. Oh my God, tell us more. The box has a lid. Oh my God, this guy's brilliant. Oh my God, the lid has a lock, but it's in a boat. Oh my God, they're moving the gold. They must be moving the gold. Yes. No, but the boat is sunk to the bottom of the... Oh, so they were moving. Yes, they were moving it. And this is the only way you're going to release the muster of 15 people to get in a boat and go look for treasure. What happens if they find it? What happens if they find it anywhere along the way? What happens if it's not underwater, it's not in a chest, it's not on a boat, but there happened to be a toy boat nearby? It's real. It becomes real. Why does it become real? Because ultimately that's where the credit should go, the latency of the space. Now let's look at the Oracle mythology. Do we want to worship Tezcatlipoca, a dude that we choose who wanders around, and then finally the last days we get to flail him alive and pull his heart out for how rude he was? And the whole time Tezcatlipoca probably knows that. Probably in the later months, you would imagine, he's like really being nice to everybody. He knows he's going to die, but he really wants it to be a clean kill, right? So he's being a little bit extra nice, giving a little bit extra prophecy to a few of the high priests, right? He's doing what he can. He probably has in his mind, because of how powerful people have said he is, that he's actually not going to die. He probably even tries to claim that. It still happens, though. See where latency breaks down? His latency breaks down because he was too jacked in. I think this is really the lesson of all drug addiction. It's showing you the power of latency, showing you the ability to paint a fantasy that makes you feel better, and it works. It works. It works every time. It works so well that we've developed more drugs to do the same. And every time, Tezcatlipoca is there because there's another latency there waiting to get you. And it does. It gets you. You could call this a curse. You could call this an eternal guarantee, that I only came here because God promised I wouldn't have to stay. God promised no matter what kind of trouble I got in, no matter how many people I pissed off, I was going to be able to die one day. And as soon as I die, I'm released and I don't have to worry about this place anymore. Is this a curse? Or is this a get out of jail free card? You tell me. Because I have a hard time calling mortality a curse. It seems like a gift. Because in a world that's so chaotic, where we can't predict a thing, that we're walking around insisting that there is one guarantee. And you know what? It's right. We have found there's only one guarantee you have. But we're cursing that guarantee. We're cursing that guarantee. We can't look at that, just like we can't really understand Tezcatlipoca. I'm talking to myself. I think a lot of you guys are further ahead. You're like, no, man, if someone says that it's a pyramid piezoelectric generator, it is. Problem solved. And even worse, some of you are like, yeah, well, someone else backed him up, so it must be true. And I'm just like, oh. I'm not mad. I'm enraptured. I'm enraptured by your ability to torque off the belief of someone else. You're doing that double wall trick, where you're scaling the wall by bouncing off each of them. And the whole time I'm like, you're not touching ground. And the whole time you're like, look, I'm not touching ground. And I have not been praising you properly. I praise you now. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I've been born with the name true, as I said before. It's a difficult spot for me. It's difficult to be here. How do I do such things? I don't know. I'm still working through it. It's part of what this episode is about, is actually just kind of showing you that. But if you consider the ideas that we've discussed, the bicameral mind, this idea that there were two minds, but they hadn't met yet, both of them had their language center. One spoken of much different code built on archetypes and pictures, mythology. The other spoke more on a sensory memory type situation, a zetetic X follows Y, a causal kind of pencil. And that the meeting of these two minds would look exactly like mythology. The meeting of these two places would look exactly like what it uses now. So really our accuracy is going to be somehow a tandem of both. Somehow understanding just how to use this smoky mirror, which means we're not polishing it to make it clear. We're polishing it to make it smoky. We're polishing it to make it smoky. This is a different art, guys. It's a different art that has no bounds. There's no floor here. There's nothing to rest on. And it's a good thing. I get why we needed to prop ourselves up. I get why we needed to create majoritarianism, but what if you could harness that power of belief inside yourself and you wouldn't need to jack into anyone else? You wouldn't have to go find someone else that's going to believe you. You wouldn't have to find what it takes to change your story to make sure that they believe you too, because ultimately this is what we are. We have to facetize our own fantasies in order to bequeath more belief. So we have to satisfy everyone around us what they want it to be too. And what they want it to be too may not necessarily be what we see it to be. But what if you could decouple? What if you could see your own universe? My guess is that the rest of the world would call that a tumor. My guess is the rest of the world would see how solid it grows, see how autonomous it was, and want to obliterate it. We want to obliterate tumors. We don't want to associate with them. If you could convince yourself that a tumor is decoupled cells, that it is a snake's in hair, that you could then incorporate it into the Iroquois Confederacy by believing it. But you don't want to believe it because it's too violent. You don't want to believe it because it's too strong. You don't want to believe it because it incorporates too much Tezcatlipoca. I'm talking to myself here. So I have to embrace more of the fantasy. I have to watch the Alex Jones and realize that this is where people want their torque to work. They get a lot out of this. And watching the spinning vortex reminds me of how effective it is. So I'm hoping I'll lead myself back into the place of Heyoka Clown. I'm hoping I'll lead myself back into the place of being less serious, more curious, of utilizing more of the fantasy and relying less on the rigidity that I have that the torque can only be bequeathed by something that has shown itself positive in my own demonology. This is about as close as I can say that what an opinion really is. It's this giant church, and this giant church has had an arrangement about a certain passage, and that passage is being written down and drawn in the cartoon characters and the Macaroni pictures of all of our children, and that those things are really what's used to influence people. It's those Macaroni drawings really that influence people. It's not the sermon. It's what the kids come home and draw with it that makes the rest of the world. Do you see the difference? You really do put it back into that Tezcatlipoca standpoint after that. It's a beautiful thing, guys. It's hard, but it's a beautiful thing. This is why ultimately I come back to remind you about hallucination theory. That if you could see your world as a cell, hallucinating all of its information, all of the ionic channeled information that's coming into the nucleus, but more importantly, all of the protein shells that are permeating our outer walls, the world around us. That when you start to process the information, it's too dry because it's all chemistry. So you have to give it shapes, you have to give it rendering, you have to create a horizon, you have to create a daytime and nighttime. Why? Because you have a clock. The clock itself is just the flowing of certain aminos that you're able to count and go, oh, look, here's a time, I can count it. It's a rhythm. And that rhythm actually is being distributed by a wishbone in your head, believe it or not. A certain antenna that kind of broadcasts time to the whole body. You've got a couple of these clocks in your brain. One of them took over only, 1,000 years ago or so. It kind of got us into this new rhythm where we decided, you know what, instead of the hippocampus keeping time, let's just make a very special spot to do it the same. Why? Because the hippocampus is going to get afraid. It's going to stretch time. It's going to stretch it, compress it and stretch it. This is why certain moments feel longer, certain moments feel shorter. I think this is why your hair grows super fast during like dramatic events. Your fingernails grow at the same time. It's because that's your hippocampus time tapping in. This other part, sorry, I don't know the name, does look like a horseshoe, really is a more standardized timing. And really all it's doing is just emitting a signal, and that signal you can see in your visor because you're hallucinating all this data, and it gives you this sense of time passing. So all of this is a hallucination, which is why I'd be a hypocrite to argue against that. I think really I struggle with the solidity, reminding myself that it's not solid. But this shouldn't bother me anymore. It should be something I should be able to embrace when you start to understand what consciousness is in the bicameral mind. So really, I think I've associated into my own hallucination. I've become my own demons. These demons are so effective that I became them. And ultimately, this is just your personality, really. Your personality is this thing. I don't know if this helps at all. I don't know if this makes any sense at all. I really don't. Maybe this is a horrible show. I don't know. I want you, though, to consider what we've been talking about lately. We started some new discussions on Dojo Worth. It's a great channel. You should go check it out. We've got a lot of great feedback already from that. But basically, we brought back the dojo, I think, is what's happening. I'm sort of waiting to see, but it looks like it. People want to be less anonymous. We kind of want to come more in and carve plasma bubbles in a different way. It could be fun for you to watch. It could be something interesting to check it out. So you can check that out. I will put a link in the comments to that channel if it will let me. And we have Airship today. It starts in 9 minutes. If you've never joined an airship, you're welcome to come. You don't have to introduce yourself the first time. You can hang out. Just watch out for the mods. They'll tell you what's going on. But yeah, we'll pick up the discussion there and talk about even other things, other deeper things maybe even more shallow things. Who knows? So enjoy yourself. Enjoy the hypotheticals that you hear today. I hope that you can maybe even consider incorporating Tezcatlipoca. Actually, I think I can do la even better for you. I want you, if you've learned one thing today, you can learn that. You can learn that. It's, I'm looking for my notes here. Yeah. Tex, cat, lip. Think lip. Okay. So you got your Texas. So you got Tex. Then you got a cat. Then you got a lip. And then you got an oka. The only thing hard there is oka. So Tex, cat, lip, oka. Tex, cat, lip, oka. Say it with me. Tex, cat, lip, oka. This is latent space. Everything around you, my friends. Thank you for watching, James Sure. We'll see you next time.
For the sun to
Somebody typed, James, I thought the truth is always in the room. And it is. What's wrong with the truth being fantasy? What's wrong with truth being a hallucination? I'll tell you what's wrong. It's hard. It's hard to hear. It's damn near impossible to hear, so many of us won't. So yeah, the truth is still in the room. It's just liquid. It's a smoky mirror. And I get that's hard to swallow. Man, it's hard for me to swallow too. It's why it took me so long to do it. It's why it took me so long to say this. So maybe it's too much, you know. Maybe it's too hard to hear. I get it. But I'm going to try.